Hey, it's Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini. I post weekly crafting, cooking, and organic gardening videos right here on my YouTube channel. In this video tutorial, I'm teaching you how to make child-sized beanbags. So for this project, I've teamed up with two sponsors. One of them is Shannon Fabrics, who provided me the Cuddle Fabric, the super light and fluffy stuff that I used to create the exterior part of the beanbag chair. Here's an example. This is one that I used to create my son's beanbag, and it's so soft and fluffy. This stuff is great. They have it in tons of different colors, different textures, prints, so you can see. You can definitely check out their website. I'll link to it below as well, and you can check out the varieties that they have. They don't currently sell directly to consumers, so you will have to find somebody who carries their fabric, some local quilt shop or a larger chain. And don't worry, because I've included links to where you can find this Cuddle Fabric in the description box below. And they've been kind enough to offer up 3 yards of their Cuddle Fabric. You'll get to pick what you want from their website, and that's enough for you to make the exterior part of one child-sized beanbag chair. Now, one of you lucky winners is going to be winning that giveaway, but make sure that you watch the rest of this tutorial to learn all the details on how you can enter to win. So aside from the 3 yards you need for the outside part of a beanbag, then you need 3 yards of fabric for creating the lining on the inside. You're also going to need something to fill the lining part with, okay? In my case, I'm going to be using Fairfield's Poly-Fil beanbag filler, which they've been kind enough to provide for me so that I can make this project for you guys. So Fairfield has been kind enough to offer up a discount code, the one that you see right here, only for the Crafty Gemini viewers on the purchase of your Poly-Fil beanbag filler bags. Remember, you need 2 to create one child-sized beanbag chair. So you can go to their website. I've included all the links below in the description box. You can check them out, enter that code, and you can grab your bags. Remember that the code is going to be valid until September 1st of 2013, and using that code is going to be limited to just one time per customer. So after you have your Cuddle Fabric for the outside, lining fabric, your Poly-Fil beanbag filler, the only other thing you're going to need is a pattern, because we need to cut out some kind of odd shaped pieces. But of course, I've provided that for you guys for free. I designed it and created it at home. It's a PDF. You can find it in the description box below. You can click on the link, download it at home, print it out, and after you take the 3 sheets together, you're going to have the pattern piece that you need to create both the lining and the exterior part of the beanbag chair. Now that I have all that information out of the way, let's jump right into making our child-sized beanbag. Now for the outside fabric, I'm using a lot nicer and fancier fabrics that I got from one of my sponsors, Shannon Fabrics, and this stuff is amazing. Okay, you can see it's super soft and fluffy. It's completely machine washable and dryable, and so we're going to be making an outer cover for the inside part of the beanbag that we can then take off and put in the wash so that we can always have it nice and clean for the children. I have 3 different fabrics for each one of the beanbags I'm doing. And the reason for that is that each beanbag is going to be made up of 6 different panels. You can use 6 panels of the exact same fabric. You can switch them up, do whatever you want. I just thought I would do 2 panels each of these 3 for one, and then of these 3 for my son. These have the dimples on them. These have like strips on them. They're super nice and fluffy and soft. So this is going to make great beanbags to put in our homeschool classroom. We're actually going to have to start cutting out the fabric for the lining first. And so let's start doing that. Okay, so we're dealing with the lining right now. The lining itself is also going to be made up of the 6 panels. So just for the lining fabric, you're going to need roughly about 3 yards. And the reason I say that is because for each piece that we're going to cut out, you need to cut out 6 of these. You're going to need about half of a yard, which is 18 inches by the width of the fabric. And you're going to need 6 chunks like this. So if you don't want to cut it out separate, you can also do it in the yardage. And I love this type of a project, like for the lining that you're not going to see ever, to use up, you know, this yard sale fabric that I always find super cheap for 10, 15, 25 cents. And I always buy it so that I can use it to create prototypes or to do things like this, which is just a lining that's not going to be seen. And so what I'm going to do with my pattern piece, notice yours is not going to look like this because I made it on the computer a lot neater for you guys. But both of these sides say place on fold, okay? And so what you need to do is, this is a part that's cut. You have a fold down here. So all we do is fold it this way. The selvages should be up this way. And so now we have 2 folds. We have a fold that we just created here, and then we have folds down here. So this is how you want to prep each one of your pieces. Now I lay my pattern piece on top. This edge needs to be flush with this fold, and this edge needs to be flush with these folds down here. And my pattern weights are inside the house. So let me improvise. Just lay something on top to keep this down. And then I'm going to only cut along the curved edge. And this is one of your pattern pieces now. You see when I open it up, it's basically the pattern times 4. And you're going to cut out 6 of them just like this. I have my 6 pieces. I'm going to show you how you're going to line this up. I'm going to put them together, pretty sides touching, pretty side of this fabric and this one. Grab your pins. You're going to start on one end, and you're just going to pin along one of these rounded edges, not the entire thing around, just here. Okay, so we're going to start here. Now, to start sewing, you're not going to start all the way at the top. I want you to start a little bit further down from this tip, okay? And then I'm going to start stitching here. Make sure to back stitch to secure those stitches. And then I'm going to stitch all the way down and around this edge. I'm using the edge of my presser foot as a guide, which for me is going to be about 3/8 of an inch, which is fine. Remember to back stitch. And again, stop a little ways from that tip and backstitch. Now after you have those 3 pairs of the different panels sewn together, you're going to get 2 and 2, put them with the pretty sides touching. You want to match up that intersecting seam there at the top, and you're going to do the exact same thing you just did, which is pin across just one of the curved edges. Now put everything so that the pretty sides of the fabrics are towards the inside. Basically, we're going to be putting the lining together inside out so we can turn it around and fill it. But what you want to do is you're not going to pin the whole thing because we have to leave an opening to fill it with our beanbag filler. So what I want you to do is pin from one end to here and then from one end to here. And what you want to do is leave a section of about 10 to 12 inches that's unstitched, and that's going to be our hole to fill our beanbag with. So we've stitched down both sides. We have our opening here. And now before we turn it inside out, let's go to the ends here, because if you recall from where we started and stopped, you should have some kind of a hole on this side. So you definitely don't want to have that there when you go to fill your beanbag. So there are a lot of different ways to finish this, but since this is going to be on the inside and nobody's going to see it, I'm going to do it real simple. I'm just going to pinch all this stuff together, place a couple of pins, and I'm just going to take a few zigzag stitches on my machine just to make sure that that's secured there in place. And it's not going to be the most professional finish, but it's definitely going to help keep all the filler beads inside the beanbag. And you want to do that to both ends, okay? Just make sure you have no openings on both sides. Okay, so we're ready to fill our lining with our Poly-Fil beanbag filler. I have the bag propped up on a table, and then I have the lining underneath it in a chair. I'm going to just clip off this bottom corner here. It's a little tricky since I'm doing it by myself. So if you can get somebody to help you, that would probably be best. Okay, so you can see I spilled some because I'm doing this by myself. So definitely if you have a helper, go ahead and use them. But I've already put one bag in here, and I'm going to go with the second. I figured I'd get a little lower to the ground since half the beanbag is full already. So instead I'm putting the filler bag on a chair. And the idea behind this is basically you're allowing gravity to help you by pulling them down into the bag. Once you've done both of the bags of the filler inside your beanbag lining, okay, what you need to do is stitch up this opening so you don't make a bigger mess, okay? I'm just going to fold this in right here, and I'm going to hand stitch it closed. And what I'm doing is using a double threaded needle. So I put a thread through my needle, and then I made a knot on the end, and I'm going to sew it up really tightly and really close together so I make sure that I don't have any of this stuff coming out of here. And I'm just doing a real simple whip stitch. This is not for looks. This is just for the functional purpose of keeping it shut, especially with kids. I know my kids are going to be jumping all over these things. And when you get to the end, make sure you make a nice sturdy knot. And that's it. The inside of our beanbag chair is complete. Now let's work on the outside. Okay, so for using our Cuddle fabric, we got to go this way, fold it over, lay our pattern piece right here. So line up 3 in the order that you want, and then repeat that again here. And when we put them all together, they will alternate, okay? So that's simple enough. I'm going to stitch these together. First these 3, then these 3, and then I'm going to put the 2 halves together. So now that the 2 halves have been sewn, I don't want these 2 right next to each other, so I'm going to turn this one around so that all the panels will alternate going around in the shape of the circle when the beanbag is complete. So let's put one on top of the other, pretty sides touching. We're going to match up the intersecting points up here just like we've been doing, and then go ahead and pin a little bit of that side. Now we're going to need to leave a gap here that's not going to be stitched open, and this needs to be large enough for you to fit the entire interior part of the beanbag chair in there. So make sure that you're leaving plenty of space, okay? I'd say I like to leave usually about 25 to 30 inches or so of an opening here. Now that I've pinned everything and I know that everything is nice and lined up, I'm going to go ahead and add my closure now so that nothing moves on me if I try to do this after it's already been sewn. So I've decided to use a snap setting kit that I have for these plastic snaps, and if you don't have a kit like this, you can find the link in the description box below this video. I'll link you directly to the exact same kit that I like to use here. So I'm adding these snaps right there to the pretty sides of the fabric so that the snaps themselves can be enclosed. Once they're snapped together, you won't see them on the outside. And the Cuddle fabric here, it doesn't fray after you've cut it already, so I'm just putting the snaps about 1/2 inch in from the raw edge just to make sure that my fabric doesn't rip on me when I'm taking the snaps apart. So I've attached about 10 different snaps here to the edge, and now that everything is nice and flush, I'm just going to continue pinning on the entire opposite edge so I can just go to my sewing machine once. After you sew up those seams, we just have to cover up these little holes that we have on both ends, but this time we're going to finish it off a lot more professional than we did the lining because this part is actually going to show, right? It's going to be on the outside. So here's one opening on one side. All I'm going to do is cover it up with a cute applique coming from one of the same fabrics that I used to create the panels. So I'm going to take this pink fabric scrap here. I just took a CD and I'm going to cut out 2 circles, one for each end, cut them out. Then you're going to do the exact same thing and cut out corresponding circles out of any interfacing that you have. Just try not to use the fusible stuff because you're going to have to take the layers apart. So let me just cut a chunk off of here. It's some light or medium weight interfacing. Pin it together, trim the excess around, and what I'm doing is putting the interfacing touching the pretty side of the fabric. You can see here I've sewn it all the way around just using a 1/4 inch seam, trim down the seam allowance just a little bit, and then you're going to turn to the side where the interfacing is, pinch the 2 layers apart, cut that part open, and just rip it so that you can push the fabric through to the outside. And so we're now looking at the pretty side of our applique, but then the edges are not raw because they've been tucked under since we sewed them to the interfacing. So it's a really cool way to do some applique pieces. Now I'm going to lay it right over the center, pin some in place, and you can actually stitch this down by hand if you want to, but I'm just going to take it to the machine since it's a lot easier. Plus I have that large opening on the side, so I'll be able to drape this over my machine with no problems and just zigzag stitch around the entire applique on both ends of the outer fabric. And now the fun part, we get to stuff the beanbag inside the outer lining and see what the finished project looks like. Depending on how wide you left that opening there, you may need somebody else to help you, but try not to rip your fabric or rip out any of the seams. Now I can just snap my little closure up. You can see it's nice and neat, and that's it. Our beanbag is done. So I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. Super easy project, even great for beginners. If you did, make sure that you hit it with that thumbs up below, share it across the different social media sites, and don't you forget to click that subscribe button above so you won't miss out on any of my future video tutorials or giveaways. My sponsors allow me to keep bringing you guys the best video tutorials that I know how to make, so I would love it if you showed them some support. I've included all their links and Twitter, Facebook information, all that good stuff in the description box below, so definitely head on over and check them out so I can keep bringing you guys these great video tutorials and giveaways. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.